You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
You know, whenever you open a browser window these days, it just feels like information overload. It's almost impossible to keep up.
Oh, absolutely. The speed of change right now is, it's dizzying. It feels like a full-time job just to track the major shifts in tech.
It really does. But that's what we're here for. We've
Yeah.
done the heavy lifting to pull out the signal from all that activity.
Right. And we've kind of boiled it down to three big areas. The insane economics behind the AI race,
Yeah.
what's coming next for the tech in our pockets and on our roads, and,
Yeah.
and this is a big one. How all of this is changing what it means to be a software developer.
Exactly. This is basically your cheat sheet to the biggest moves happening right now. So let's just jump right in, starting with the staggering money behind artificial general intelligence.
It really is a gold rush.
Yeah.
But the price to even play the game is just astronomical. You look at a company like OpenAI,
Mm-hmm.
they're going after this multi-trillion-dollar valuation, and that means they need just unbelievable investment in chips and data centers to even have a shot.
And that comes at a huge cost, right? I saw some internal forecasts that suggest their operating losses could hit something like, what was it, $74 billion by 2028?
It's a colossal number, and they don't even project being profitable until 2030.
Wow. So, I mean, what does a $74 billion loss even represent? That's not just a bad quarter.
It's not. It's a statement. They're treating this entire period as one massive R&D expense. They're just buying up everything, market share, talent, compute betting it all on a huge payoff in 2030.
But that means they need constant, heavy fundraising. What happens if the money markets get a little chilly? That seems like a huge risk.
It's a massive pressure.
Yeah.
And it's such a stark contrast to, say, Anthropic. They're on a completely different path.
A much leaner one, from what I understand.
Exactly. They're looking to break even way sooner, maybe in 2028.
Yeah.
So you got these two totally opposed strategies.
Mhm.
Spend to dominate versus, scale efficiently.
One gives you certainty, the other, well, the other is a moonshot.
Pretty much. And speaking of efficiency, the models themselves are actually getting smarter about cost. The new GPT-5.1 family is a great example.
Ah, with the adaptive reasoning. This part is really interesting.
It's a huge deal for users. The model can now figure out if a prompt is hard or easy. It decides when to think longer on something complex.
But, and this is the key part, it saves time and tokens on the simple day-to-day stuff.
Precisely. So if you ask for, I don't know, a complex bit of code, it really turns on it. But if you just say, summarize this email, it can switch to a no reasoning mode.
And you get a response almost instantly.
Yeah. And they've also added extended prompt caching. So if you ask a follow-up about something from yesterday, it can pull that context back up for cheaper and faster.
It just makes the whole experience feel smarter and cheaper for businesses using the API.
Now, if we zoom out, this whole race for compute and efficiency, it's getting really intense on a global scale. Jensen Huang pointed out this huge difference in workforce.
Oh, yeah, the numbers were just stunning. China has an estimated 1 million people working on AI.
And in Silicon Valley, the estimate is around 20,000. The ratio is just, it's wild.
And this leads to that prediction that partly because of the U.S. export controls on chips?
Right. The theory is that those controls might have accidentally sped up China's push for self-sufficiency. And the projection is that by 2027, China could have more AI compute than the rest of the world combined.
So it's a classic action-reaction loop playing out on a massive geopolitical scale.
It is. Compute power is basically a national strategic asset now.
Okay, so while that race for raw power is happening at the national level, consumer tech giants are fighting a different battle. A battle for revenue on the device in your pocket. Let's talk about Apple.
Apple is always looking for new ways to monetize, and this latest move with mini apps is fascinating.
These are the apps inside bigger super apps, right?
Exactly. What they've done is create this new mini apps partner program. And really, the whole point is to close loopholes that were letting developers avoid Apple's in-app payment fees.
So now they're taking their cut, what is it, 15%?
Yep. A 15% cut of purchases made inside those mini apps. So even if a transaction is buried 3 layers deep in a super app, Apple still gets its slice. It's a really sophisticated way to grow their services revenue.
But they're not just looking at the screen, are they? They're also looking up, literally to the sky.
Right. The satellite plans for the iPhone are really ambitious. We're talking about a whole framework for third-party apps, satellite maps, richer messaging.
Even routing satellite connectivity over 5G networks.
The vision is huge, but there's a catch. Almost all of it depends on major, very expensive upgrades to Globalstar's satellite network.
So it's a huge strategic dependency for them. Their next-gen features are tied to someone else's infrastructure build-out.
A very big dependency.
Okay, let's shift from handhelds to mobility, autonomy. It feels like we've got Tesla's ambition on one side and Waymo's reality on the other.
It's a perfect contrast. With Tesla, you're hearing these internal warnings that AI engineers need to get ready for the hardest year of their lives in 2026.
That sounds intense. Is that just standard Musk motivational talk, or is there something more to it?
Well, it's a bit of both. The rhetoric is classic Tesla, for
Yeah.
sure, but the pressure is very real. They have to deliver on, a decade of promises about autopilot and robotaxis. Plus, that goal of making 10 million Optimus robots a year?
That's just a staggering number.
It is. They're trying to industrialize everything at once, and that's where the pressure comes from.
Meanwhile, Waymo is just quietly hitting these major regulated milestones.
And this latest one is a big deal. They're now the first company in the U.S. to offer fully autonomous rides. No human safety driver on freeways.
In LA, Phoenix, and the Bay Area, so paid rides on the freeway, that's huge.
It's very significant. We often think of city streets as being harder, but freeways have their own unique dangers. The speed changes everything.
Higher risk.
Much higher risk.
Yeah.
The car has to see and predict things much, much farther down the road. This proves their tech is robust enough for high-speed driving.
All right, shifting our gaze even higher, from freeways to orbit. The new space race is all about industrial scale.
Absolutely. We just saw Blue Origin nail the landing of its New Glenn booster. That's a huge milestone. It puts them right in competition with SpaceX for big launches.
And it's important to remember the scale here. The New Glenn booster is, quite a bit bigger than a Falcon 9?
Considerably bigger and heavier, yeah. It gives them an edge for certain kinds of heavy payloads. The competition is definitely heating up.
And SpaceX's answer to that seems to be just build more rockets than anyone thought possible. This Gigabay facility in Texas sounds unbelievable.
It's a new paradigm. The goal is to manufacture up to 1,000 Starship rockets a year.
1,000 a year. That's not a space program, that's an assembly line.
It's mass manufacturing on an industrial scale. They expect it to be finished in late 2026. This is how they'll build out Starlink and get to their long-term goals for human spaceflight. The industrial age of space is here.
On this season of The Vocal Technologist, it seems like everything is about scale. And all of this velocity, whether it's AI models or rockets, means the tools developers use have to keep evolving just as fast.
They have to. Even foundational tools are changing. Homebrew just hit version 5.0, and they've added practical things like concurrent downloads by default and official support for Linux on ARM.
So just making things faster and more accessible for more developers.
Right. But the really big shift is how we interact with AI. We're moving beyond just walls of text.
Towards generative UIs.
Exactly. There's a new SDK for Flutter called GenUI, which is a perfect example. So imagine you ask an AI to book a flight, instead of just giving you a text list.
It builds you a little interactive widget right there with drop-downs and buttons.
The AI generates an actual application component you can use immediately. It creates this super high bandwidth loop. When you change something in the UI, that state change feeds right back to the agent. It's seamless.
And this evolution of tooling just brings up that big question about skills, right? The idea that you can't just be a specialist anymore. You need to be a full stack person.
Well, the work is just messier now. AI can write the boilerplate code. It can do the easy stuff. So the value shifts. You need that fluency across different domains. You need product sense and deep engineering craft.
Because the AI is handling execution, but the human still owns the intent, the architecture.
And the accountability. You're the one who has to judge if the code the AI wrote is actually any good.
So for startups building those tools, this integration is key. You're talking about vertical integration.
Yeah, and that's a term that can be a bit vague for developers. What it means in this world is shipping the whole stack, or at least integrating it really tightly.
So you're not just relying on glue code to patch together different services.
Exactly. If you're just gluing other people's APIs together, you're limited by what their platform exposes. You can't build a truly custom, optimized feature because you don't control the layers underneath.
You're stuck.
You're stuck. And that ultimately limits how useful your tool can be.
And before we wrap this section, we should touch on one of those really deep niche specializations, the compiler engineer.
It's such a tough and fascinating field. The job market is brutal because, once a compiler is built, most of the work is just maintenance and optimization.
And not many companies are building their own from scratch.
Very few. So the roles are rare, but the expertise needed is just immense. You have to understand everything from the language to the hardware architecture.
It's the ultimate example of that cross-domain fluency being rewarded, if you can get one of those jobs.
Precisely. It's where human ingenuity can find those last few percentage points of optimization in a world where everything else is getting automated.
This has been a real whirlwind tour. We've covered the just unbelievable cost of AI innovation, the push for new hardware and service models from Apple and Tesla, and this big shift towards more integrated full-stack mindset for engineers.
The one thread that really connects all of it is this intense pressure on technical teams everywhere, whether it's Tesla demanding the hardest year or junior developer roles getting squeezed by automation.
The pressure is on. It feels like success from here on out isn't about working harder, but being more adaptable, gaining that cross-domain fluency you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leaves us with a final question for you to think about. In a world where AI agents can accelerate execution and master the mechanics of coding, how will you define and measure the value of pure human intent and judgment? That's really the challenge ahead.
A big question. Hopefully our conversation today gave you a bit more clarity on the map.
Until next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.